they say a wizard never arrives late, that they arrive when they intend to. Something like that. So I needed to make a cart for my little wizard to arrive on. I started using a similar method as to the bookshelves that I made last week by laminating these popsicle sticks together. This is really great for making a really strong and really durable piece of wood that we can then work with. It's also really cheap because popsicle sticks are a dime a dozen. I make a base that's 5 popsicle sticks wide, and I make some walls that'll be 2 popsicle sticks wide. And it is basically exactly identical to those bookshelves I made. But these are going to be a little bit longer. I cut one end flat against my board, and then I cut marks at 2.5 inches and then 3.5 inches. So the 2.5 inches will be the back end, and the 3rd inch at the front will be a spot you can sit your miniature. So then for the sides, I only cut a length 2.5 inches long, so that way it can fit along the back. And then use some trusty tacky glue to stick those down, and that makes sure that it's standing up pretty well. PVA glue tends to be a bit too runny for this. But I mean, if you have some clamps or you want to sit there holding it, that works pretty well as well. And then I cut a little piece to fit in between that gap. Now, the most interesting part of making this was making the wheels. So I get a piece of single corrugated cardboard and I sketch out a circle using this dropper bottle. And that'll be the main structure of the wheel. I then cut that out using a real sharp knife, and that'll give us our nice round shape that we can then stick on our wooden details. And for these details, I just rough up some popsicle sticks, same type I was using before, and just rough them up to give them a bit more shape. By cutting in some lines and carving the edges, it makes it look more like natural wood. And really, I probably should have done this for all of the wood. It would have looked a bit more real and unique. And then add some PVA glue to the circles and stick on the pieces of wood. Once that is all nice and dry, and I mean like proper dry, I can just come through and cut all of the little excess pieces off, following the circumference of the circle. And that gives us a nice round wheel. I then roughly eyeball the center of the wheel and poke a little hole in it using my screwdriver. And this will just allow the barbecue skewer that I'm going to use for the axle just to slot into something. But before I get to doing that, I'm going to add a little bit more detail and clear up that corrugation just by cutting some strips of cardstock. And these details make the wheels look a bit more like the wheels of some siege engine, some big monstrous thing. But I think it still looks alright as a little wagon as well. I then get a skewer, cut it down a bit to size, and stick it in with some hot glue and some PVA glue. And just because I like to make wheels spin, I use a piece of single corrugated cardboard and stick the skewer through that corrugation, and that will act as the little clamp to hold the wheels on, but still give it plenty of room to spin around. Using this little 3D printable rideable horse miniature I found on Thingiverse, I also hook up a little system so that way I can put reins over the horse. I'm not sure what these would be called at all. I just measure this by eye and mark off some lines and cut them to size. Always double checking, making sure that the horse fits into the whole thing I'm building for it. And with that, the whole structure is done, and it still rolls, which is great. But now I'm just going to add a little bit more detail using these tiny little coffee stir sticks. I bought a pack of like 1,000 of these stir sticks, and they're just not the right size, not the normal size stir sticks at all. So I thought I might as well try to find some use for them. and stick them on as little details here and there. And I give it a quite simple wooden paint job. Paint the entire thing in a burnt sienna, not really worrying about 100% coverage, because the missing places will just give it more flavour. But then to cover up those missing places, and to bring out a little bit of the detail in the popsicle sticks, I give it a dry brush of a burnt sienna and white, which is a nice brown, creamy sort of colour. Finally, touch up all of the metal banding with a gunmetal grey, and it's done and ready for the table. Those wheels look big and cartoony, and they are perfect to make just using popsicle sticks. This is really small, really cheap, and real easy. And has plenty of space to store your entire party. Thanks for watching.